I'm losing love for my wife after she quit her career to stay home. Yet I'm still the one carrying most of the load while working full-time, because she spends most days on the couch. I, 43M, try my best to provide for my wife, 38F, and our 2 kids, ages 3 and 5, as well as my mother-in-law, and I'd like to think I'm doing a decent job. Over the years, I've worked to improve our family's living situation. Not only did I complete another bachelor's degree and recently earn a master's in a STEM-related field, but I also worked 2 full-time jobs while completing my second bachelor's and put my wife through school as well. She completed a degree that could allow her to make good money, around $60,000 to $70,000 a year, in a healthcare field that always has job opportunities. However, with the birth of our 2 kids, she has since given up on her career to be a stay-at-home mom for the time being. At first, it was a struggle while I was finishing up my master's. Once I completed it and our youngest turned 3, my career took a jump, and we are now able to afford our single-income household in a more feasible manner. We're far from rich, but do okay for a single-income family of 4, a little north of $150,000 base plus bonuses. Over the past year, life has been overwhelming for my wife, so even though I now work 75% from home, I budgeted to hire a daytime nanny to help her around the house with 1 child while the other is in school. My day starts every morning around 5:30 to 6 a.m. I get the house ready for the day before the nanny arrives at 8 a.m., get our oldest up and ready for school, make breakfast, plan out my day, drop our oldest off, and get back home in time to let the nanny in. My most recent task at work has me grounded for the next 2 months, meaning I am now 100% working from home. While this is nice, I'm busy in meetings all day as my role involves managing teams on a global scale and overseeing industry projects. For the past month and a half, I've realized that as much as my wife says her life at home is stressful, her day doesn't actually start until 10 a.m. After a week or so of working from home, I asked my mother-in-law and the nanny if this had always been the case, and they both responded more or less the same. Sometimes earlier, sometimes later. My wife literally wakes up, cooks, and then scrolls through her phone or shops from home, which brings me to my gripe. I'm glad I'm able to provide her with this kind of life since we both grew up with limited means. I understand the possibility of postpartum depression, the stress of having kids, the feeling of being unfulfilled, and the fact that I'm probably a crappy husband. But for what it's worth, everything is taken care of and then some. I manage the household finances. She claims she was too busy to do so. Pay all the household bills, pay my own personal bills, pay her bills, track and handle all the upkeep of our house, appliances, cars, pets, etc. And I also help pay for my mother-in-law's medical bills and car note. But apparently my life is on easy street compared to hers. I can't decompress to her because it seems like she always feels the need to one-up me. I had a bad day, but she had it worse because I'm lucky I got to go away and work. My feet hurt from walking all day during work travel, which is nothing compared to her standing and cooking with a child clinging to her. For the past 2 or so years, I've been told I ruined her life, her opportunities, etc. But when I remind her of what she says, she denies it and dodges accountability. My mother-in-law has pulled me aside and said she's noticed a change in both me and my wife. I have a greater attachment to my kids, and hell, I've hugged the dog and talked to them more about my life than to my wife. I honestly feel like I am in emotional survival mode as I'm 1 step from moving up the career ladder and 1 step away from finding love and comfort at the bottom of a whiskey bottle. I'm sure I'll be hearing from the manly men of X about how I'm simping, but I'm not a machine. I just want to know and feel that someone I prioritize, aside from my kids, appreciates and loves me for what I do. I'm sure I'll hear from the stay-at-home moms of Facebook, which is fine. I grew up in a single-parent household with my mother. It's not easy. And honestly, with the help of her mother and a nanny Monday through Friday for 1 toddler while another child is at school, can you honestly tell me she's having the typical stay-at-home mom experience? Because neither my friends nor colleagues who are single parents can say she is. I'm sure the masses of holier-than-thou Instagram users will consider this a poorly written fanfic. But it is what it is. Edit. Thank you for the replies. To add more context, I've never cheated. I do work in an industry with a large female population, but I'm literally an open book when it comes to work. I name colleagues and staff under me, and she has access to my work agendas and correspondence if she really wanted to snoop. That said, she still doesn't know exactly what I do for a living. At this time, as a whole family, including her parents and mine, we have tried to get her to go to therapy, but she refuses or skirts around the issue. Aside from coming from a single-mother household, my biological dad was present in my life. She, on the other hand, has had both parents in a reportedly monogamous marriage for over 40 years. I have tried to talk to her about everything, including my own feelings, but again, one-upmanship tends to be the trend here. I was asked what I'm getting out of the marriage now, aside from my 2 beautiful kids. I've been asking myself that same question. We have a near non-existent sex life, mainly since last year. I always figured maybe it's part of depression or whatever she may be going through, or maybe I'm just not attractive enough or horrible in bed because of my health conditions. I'm not some supermodel husband, but temptation and opportunity do knock, and I can still perform. However, I never give in because, as cliché as it sounds, I honestly love my wife and want to be with only her. I'll give credit where credit is due, as I don't want to sound biased. When I say she wakes up and cooks, she cooks for everyone in the house. Myself, the kids, my mother-in-law, and even the nanny. Aside from breakfast, she prepares all meals and snacks. I typically fast until lunchtime, and our oldest tends to eat a small, simple breakfast in case they don't like what the school serves that morning. She does the laundry for both kids and herself, but seldom folds and puts it away. I typically do my own, and the rest of my clothes I dry clean because they are work clothes. She does keep track of our pantry and fridge, but after making the list, I'm the one who goes out and buys everything if not delivered. She cleans our bathrooms and house about 50% of the time, while the other 50% is handled by either my mother-in-law, myself, or sometimes the nanny if she feels like being extra helpful. Prior to hiring a nanny, my mother-in-law was the main help for my wife until she developed unexpected medical needs, so I opted to hire a nanny to assist both of them, especially when my mother-in-law is undergoing treatments and recovering. Update 2 weeks later. Not sure if anyone will read this, but thank you to those who have reached out and chatted. While I know I've kept my newfound friends here updated, I figured I'd just update my post and keep it short. I showed my wife my post the following weekend, and she read it along with all the comments. Long story short, we argued. She left our house to stay with her sister, and I've been a single parent since. It's sad to say that aside from the good nights to our kids, it's all pretty much the same routine. Nothing much else to say other than thank you for all the kind words of encouragement. Edit. Just need to add. This post got bigger than I expected for a venting post, but I've responded to a few comments nonetheless. Thank you for the comments and DMs, and even more so for the offers to let me ruin your life. LOL. It's been the highlight of my day/night as I sit here drinking with my dog while everyone else is asleep. It feels depressingly sad that I have to turn to random internet strangers for some sort of validation in my rant. My apologies in advance as I try to keep this as vague as possible. Second update, 1 month later. I just wanted to update those who have been kind enough to check in via DM and comments. Apologies in advance for the lengthy post. It's a bit of irony and coincidence that I'm making a follow-up to the update I posted on May 6, 2024, during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but I could really use another outlet outside of my therapist. My apologies if this isn't the storybook ending or the destruction of a relationship that some were hoping for. The day after she packed up and left, my wife attempted to come back and take the kids with her to her sister's. Naturally, I was against this, and thankfully so was her whole family, including said sister. Not only would it have been unfair to our kids to be swept away into a home that isn't theirs, but it would have also placed financial and housing stress on the rest of her family, considering she doesn't work and her sister and her family, husband and 3 kids, live with their dad in the house they grew up in. After a little over a week away, I guess she cooled off, so she just decided it would be fine to walk in the door with her bags as if she had just come back from Costco. She came into my office while I was working and angrily stared at me while I was on a conference call with my team. I couldn't just jump off as this is a busy time of the quarter for us. I guess that didn't sit well with her because once I took off my headset and closed my laptop, she started yelling at me about how much I really don't care about her and her well-being overall. At that moment, all I could do was look at her and shake my head. My mother-in-law came in after hearing my wife yelling and pulled her away, telling her not to bother me while our nanny kept our youngest away from it all on the other side of the house. That night, after the kids were put to bed, I sat in my office by myself with a drink, as I had been doing for the past few nights, and my wife came in. We talked, we argued, we cried, we drank. One thing led to another, and we ended up in bed. I wish I could say it was our way of making up, but the next sobering morning, as we lay there, she went on about how hard it was for her while she was gone. Literally, it was all about her struggle staying at her family's house in her old room with her dad and her sister's family. How lucky I am to be able to stay here, to do this and that, to buy this or that, and not stress as much as they did. How easy my life and everyone else's in our family are compared to hers. Even though we had similar upbringings, my mind and heart broke that morning. I've been spiraling down since then. This past week, I made another attempt to reconcile and talk things out, but I was met with a shouting match while trying to express my current stress and anxieties about life and work in general. Wife: well, do you know how hard this all is for me? You're supposed to help me be happy. Me. So when it comes to my happiness, stress, needs, and overall well-being, screw me, right? I just need to get over it. Wife: we all have our own problems. You need to figure it out and get over them. I don't know who the woman I am at home with is, but that wasn't the woman I married, the one I vowed to spend my life with and raise our kids together. Since that conversation, I've been noticeably distant from her. I've been sleeping in my office on the couch or with my kids in their bed after putting either one of them to sleep. Still, nothing changes. She continues starting her day at 10 a.m., sitting on her phone, talking to her Facebook mom groups between cooking meals, while the kids are in both my mother-in-law's and the nanny's care. Nothing has changed, and I doubt anything ever will. Sadly, I think that even if we got a divorce, nothing would change or feel any different. When my wife was gone, the days felt like any other, except with a little more takeout than usual. My biggest fear isn't just losing my wife, it's losing my kids in the process. So I guess it's sad to say that the grand finale to my story, like for a lot of men and some women I've talked to here, is that I'll just continue to smile and suffer in silence. Edit. First off, thank you for all the comments and DMs. Some context and clarification. Admittedly, my post was emotionally charged since I typed it up after another argument. Post-birth, our kids' pediatrician's office gave my wife those postpartum depression screening forms, and during both instances, she scored pretty high and was advised to see a therapist. With our second child, she scored significantly higher, and we, or I should say I, made an effort to get her the help she needed. She refused, so my mother-in-law and a nanny stepped in for support. I know what people will say or think, but this is one of the reasons I am not 100% ready to just give up and file our life together away. I also know that silently suffering in both the near and long run will not contribute to a healthy atmosphere, but neither would a bitter and hate-filled divorce. I know some have compared it to ripping off a bandage, saying it'll hurt at first, but that the pain will fade. However, I'd rather try to spare my kids from thinking that their parents ended up hating each other because of them or something along those lines. I've told a few people I talked to in DM since my last post a little more about my personal life. Prior to my promotion, I was a PM managing teams and budgets, so out of habit, I planned for a lot of what-ifs. That being said, I've made several contingency plans in case things unfortunately go south. So yes, I have talked to a lawyer, 3 actually, know our rights and what each of us is entitled to, have a draft settlement created and on hold until I feel I need to use it, know what I want and am willing to offer more than what is fair for our kids' well-being, but also have a plan in case we end up going to court. It's 100% on me that I'm suffering in silence, but I'm too stubborn to just give up. So while I am venting, I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for me. I endure it to maintain the norm our kids know, ensure my mother-in-law's treatments go uninterrupted, and of course, hold on to the hope that my wife will finally be open to giving therapy a shot so we can climb together to a better place. Thank you all again. Third update. 1 month later. I'm done. My wife said I don't do anything, and that I'm not worth crap in front of the therapist and family at our Father's Day dinner. She got served. Now she's mad. She's trying to act perfect, and I'm just waiting while taking care of my family. My kids, my mom, and my mother-in-law. Secondly, to clear up some confusion. I did not earn 2 bachelor's degrees and a master's while working 2 jobs at the same time, as some readers are assuming. I earned my first bachelor's degree in the early 2000s. Years later, I earned my second bachelor's degree online, taking 2 classes per semester while working 2 full-time jobs. One at Mount Sinai Hospital, 36 to 48 schedule, and the other at a Walmart, 32 to 40 hours spread across 7 days a week. I did this to pay for both my and my wife's tuition because she decided to go back to school before we had kids. After graduating with my second bachelor's degree and entering the industry I work in now, I was able to work just one job and earn my master's. So no, I did not earn 3 degrees at the same time or in close succession, and I'm honestly surprised I even have to spell this out, as working 2 jobs while going to school isn't that uncommon, or at least that's what I thought. My wife chooses not to work. She technically has a job, but she works so little that we forget she even has one. For example, she worked one day 8 hours, about 4 to 5 months ago on a Tuesday. That's how little she works. Her job and manager are really supportive flex PRN model and provide her with a list of days they need coverage, allowing her to pick up shifts if she wants to. While she has the opportunity to work more, she only does the bare minimum to keep her license active. Meanwhile, she complains to our family that her career is on hold for one reason or another, even though she has the option to work more if she chooses to. All things considered, she has a strong support system around her no matter what decision she makes. Our family, her job, and I have made multiple offers and taken many steps to open the door for her to return to work. Hiring a nanny, having her mother move in to help, me working from home, her incredibly flexible PRN schedule, etc. Yet here we are. I am and have been in therapy for myself already. Aside from what I deal with at home, my work can be very debilitating in regard to my mental health as well as my physical health at times. Since I can't find the support I need mentally and physically at home with my wife, I've opted to attend therapy rather than seek comfort with someone outside the home or at the bottom of a bottle. I've tried to express this to my wife, and as mentioned in my previous post, she has a habit of one-upping me, and here we are. My in-laws are still married. Given the circumstances in our home, my mother-in-law moved in to help my wife, while my sister-in-law and her family moved back into their parents' house for their own reasons. My sister-in-law and her family can save money while getting back on their feet, and my wife and I benefit from mother-in-law's help, allowing us to keep a closer eye on her while she undergoes bi-monthly treatments. Based on questionnaires, my wife is highly suspected of having postpartum depression, along with a history of symptomatic OCD, ADHD, and other ailments that she has refused to get evaluated for or accept the results of over the years. I knew what I was getting into, and I loved and accepted my wife for these flaws, just as she accepted mine at the time. Spare me the, I don't feel sorry for you or pity. I am like every other man who fell in love and wanted to give my person the best of me and the best world I could offer. But again, here we are. There are a lot of manly men and red pill nation, guys out there complaining and saying I'm simping over my wife. While I respect your opinions and perspectives, I will outright say that if this situation only affected my life, I would have left a long time ago. As one ex-user once said in a past comment that stuck with me, I am the kind of person that will take a bullet for his kids. Maybe it was intended in a different context, but to protect my children from any harm, physically or mentally, I'll take the proverbial bullet if and when needed. I'd like to think other dads out there would respond to the duty to protect their children, and that's why I have endured as much as I have for the time being. I would rather my wife use me as an outlet for her problems rather than our kids. Thank you all for the comments and for reaching out. I've met many strangers who have become great Reddit pen pals, and some have followed every step of this journey. I am surprised at how far this has gone, from other subreddits to other platforms and even YouTube. Love me, hate me, say it's all fake. No matter where you stand, thank you for all the constructive comments and DMs checking in. Our kids and I are going to be all right. Moving forward, now for the update. This will be shorter than some expected, as there's not much to say other than to satiate the questions some of you may have had and give people the satisfaction of an I told you so moment on Reddit. After a hard push from our family via an intervention, my wife and I finally attempted marriage counseling. I'm sure many of you can guess how well that went. Blame, tears, regrets, gaslighting with a side of, I am the reason her life is ruined and horrible, again. Just this time in front of a licensed therapist instead of Facebook mom groups. In the end, everything the therapist suggested and noted went over her head and was ignored as it went against the grain of her status quo. One thing worth mentioning was when the therapist asked if she could recall the last time she truly felt happy. Her response, about 12 years ago. Please note, 12 years ago she was still in her 20s, childless, living with her ex, a vastly different time and position in life. I know it's petty of me, but if that's when she was last happy, it wouldn't be that much of a stretch for her to find that happiness again, considering her ex is still in the same apartment, job, and place in life that he was 12 years ago. Which is fine if that's how you want to live life. I try not to judge, but in my 40s with kids, going clubbing 3 to 4 days a week is just not my jam anymore. And of course, I don't want my kids around a mom and company who drown themselves in White Claws. To add, I know some will ask. No one can confirm she hasn't physically cheated on me, but I can't confirm if she has emotionally, if that's the right term. After that therapy session, I checked all her phone records and didn't see anything out of the ordinary, but I also didn't bother checking apps like Instagram or Snapchat. I know I'm probably boring, but shout out to all the Costco dads whose Sunday fun day includes making rounds with the kids for samples. The following weekend was Father's Day, and as expected, it wasn't that big of a celebration, much like it is for many dads out there. Our family got together for a barbecue and simple family time. While my wife treated it like any other day, sleep in, get up, cook, phone, shop, I attempted to play with the kids. Phone during the family barbecue. My wife said she felt ill, so she sat around most of the day while the rest of the family made the experience enjoyable. When everything was set up and everyone sat at the table, her parents, her sister's family, my mother, our kids, it was admittedly a great spread. Nothing extravagant, just a great meal for everyone. I was conversing with my brother-in-law about our kids' school Father's Day activities, and I assumed my wife overheard when I mentioned that it was a little sad to see some kids sitting alone without their fathers during the breakfast with dad event I attended. She suddenly blurted out with a laugh loud enough for the whole room to hear, "It's not like you do anything anyway. I could have gone instead." At that moment, I turned red and was at a loss for words, sitting there processing what she had just said, while the dining room went dead silent. My mother-in-law broke the awkwardness and responded, "Well, maybe if you feel that way, one of you should divorce the other." My wife looked at her confused that she would say that, then laughed mockingly in my direction, pointing at me. She said, "As if another woman would want a man like him. Just look at you." The room remained silent. I was angry, heartbroken, confused, and embarrassed all at the same time. In typical manly fashion, I just nodded my head in silence, stood up, grabbed my keys, and got in my truck to go get a drink while trying to ignore the cries of the rest of the family and our kids telling me to stay. I don't know what was said or done while I was out of the house for the rest of Sunday because I couldn't bring myself to check our house cameras. But when I returned early Monday morning, the house had a completely different feel. As usual, I woke up around 6 o'clock, got the house and our oldest just ready for school drop-off, checked emails, checked messages. Nothing out of the ordinary. As I was getting dressed to leave, my wife was in our bed snoring. All I could do was look at her and think of what we had and what we have now lost. I've decided I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I texted my lawyer that morning to move forward with serving her. Fast forward to last week. She was served at our home. Reminder to people. I had no choice but to be there because I work from home. She had what I guess you could call a mini meltdown and came into my office screaming, asking how I could do this to her. Her mother intervened, which was met with me supposedly turning her whole family against her. But I digress. I probably would have felt bad if it hadn't been immediately followed by the rest of her weak acting, as if she's been this active and attentive wife and mother for the past few years. Sure, people can say she's making an attempt, but she's made many attempts, and historically we always fall back to where we've been. For those curious, I am aiming for full or at least majority custody of our kids. I already do and will continue to cover all the expenses for our kids. Insurance, both of our kids will be attending private schools come fall, medical bills, etc. My mother-in-law has given me the courage and strength that help supplement my own mother's support throughout this. Basically, she is the kind of mother and wife I had hoped my wife would have been to our kids and me. Out of respect for my mother-in-law, as well as per my own mother's shared wishes, I will continue to help oversee and contribute financial support if needed during her treatments. While some may feel I should cut her whole family off, I know the hardships placed on a family dealing with cancer and have dealt with it firsthand as both a family member and a care provider on both sides of the desk. All in all, I'm prepared to go to war if needed, but I just want a clean, no-fuss divorce. My wife has no alimony coming. So sorry to the ex-users and Mommy Gang Facebook group saying she needs to divorce me first and get that sweet, sweet alimony money. 1. We live in Texas that does not typically enforce alimony. 2. She has a means of gainful employment immediately. 3. To help curb any possible problems, I will cover her insurance and bills until either the divorce is finalized or she gains full employment. So that's that. I'm done and waiting for the steps to be taken for everything to be finalized. Sorry it wasn't as exciting of a story with plot twists as some may have hoped for, but that's life. Not sure I'll update this once it's all finalized, which probably won't be for a few more months depending on whether we go to war or not. 4th update, 7 months, 2 weeks later. With respect to the subreddit, I guess I should get it off my chest that as much as I don't want to care anymore, I still do to some degree. Thank you for all the comments, messages, and to the handful of people who have become Reddit pen pals throughout my journey in this matter. It took some time for me to provide an update, as adjusting to my new life, slowly cutting ties with the past, and moving forward for our children, family, and work have been my priorities. With that, I wanted to share an update for those who may have been curious. Since my last update, I've been under the scrutiny of our social circles and labeled with every typical toxic man/husband stereotype that Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram have to offer. As much as I hate the saying, I kind of understand those "you know my name but not my story" posts now. With that said, these strangers, alienated family, and friends can take their opinions and go screw themselves, because in the end, if our kids are happy, healthy, and flourishing under my toxic household, what's it to you? The more important updates: we're divorced. I have majority custody, and even though my ex is now trying to be the present mother whenever her now busy schedule allows, it is too little, too late. My mother-in-law continues to respond well to treatments, and my sister-in-law has now taken over where my ex was supposed to be in helping oversee her care. Post-divorce, I recently moved homes and jobs and accepted the next step forward career-wise, which my company has been kind enough to slowly transition me into as leadership understands what I'm going through at home. Interestingly, it's amazing how common my story is among my colleagues and network. I am sad and happy to say I am now one of the newer members of the Fellowship of Divorce Directors and Exes. As sad as it may sound, it is nice to know that many understand and are willing to offer a high degree of support, advice, assistance, and guidance as needed. The divorce itself was quick, but it still had its sad and angry moments, and many people in my camp think my ex got away with robbery. But the fact that I was awarded majority custody and per agreement have our kids almost every day, knowing they're safe under my roof, is worth every cent. While I had no say or real concerns about how my ex moved forward with mediation, as long as she agreed to the terms, I think the biggest slap in the face was how she delegated her boyfriend as someone to advise her throughout this process because his opinion is more important than any lawyer who isn't looking out for my best interest. At this point, the holidays were around the corner, and I didn't want this to disrupt the holidays for our kids and family. While I was prepared to go to court, my ex did not want to diminish her payout, and I just wanted things over and done with. I'll leave out the finer details of the terms, but in exchange for having majority custody and taking care of all expenses related to our children, I agreed to give her that lump sum she was aiming for with no request for child support on my end. She kept all her tangible possessions, car, bags, clothes, jewelry, etc., and I had to sell the home, split the profits from the sale, foot the bill on taxes, and give her almost all our joint bank accounts after legal fees. And to top it off, laughably, she argued for rights to alimony, which she's not getting. As a PSA, don't rely on your legal advice from Facebook groups. In the end, I'd like to think that overall I'm a simple man. All I ever wanted was to get married, have a family, and provide. With that goal in mind, I somehow ended up in a position where my spouse had the choice to work or not without having to worry about anything outside of our family. How it turned out this way, I can't pinpoint. I'll admit I'm a bit oblivious to what I did, but maybe it's my own fault, as some people have said, and I brought this on to myself. After the settlement, I downsized and closed on a smaller but spacious house for the 3 of us and our dog, with a separate generational suite in the backyard for my mother-in-law. She wanted to stay involved in our kids' care regardless of whether I was still married to her daughter. Honestly, I made sure that addition to the home was available for her because I hoped she would be willing and able to help until the kids were a little older. For what it's worth, it seems my ex has found her happiness. Luxury trips in a short time frame, a bigger place, a luxury high-rise studio, but still no space for our kids, her boyfriend's dream car, and a long list of expenses and shopping sprees. Some of it might have benefited our kids, but if so, only sparingly. As seen on her social media, she's rocking Cartier while our kids are sporting Carters. My ex visited our cute little house to see the kids and mother-in-law, complimenting my choice of home and the fact that I was able to maintain our household standard without her. I'm sure many will see the irony in that. I'm not entirely sure of her motives or if I'm just reading too much into things, but she made comments about how stressful and expensive their living costs are. Rent, utilities, cell and internet service, insurance, and even groceries. She seems surprised at how much it costs to feed herself, her boyfriend, and whoever else comes to their home. Strangely, she initially assumed the generational suite was meant for her to use whenever she had time and wanted to co-parent. She's even more tired now, struggling with her schedule, working a total of 48 hours a week and sometimes being forced into overtime. Her boyfriend works too, but I didn't ask for or care about the details. What I do care about is that I think she assumes I don't notice when she takes some of our usual household staples before leaving. Mainly, bottles of soap she used to buy for her home, Sonicare replacement brush heads, other toiletries, a new unopened bottle of Mountain Valley water from the fridge. And maybe I'm reading too much into it again, but sometimes I find some of the Instagram pictures from the fridge missing. Usually, it's just pictures of the kids or my mother-in-law with the kids, but a few were of the four of us in the past. Although her White Claw fund takes precedence over their home's Charmin 2-ply supply, I try to be as accommodating as possible so that she can still be involved with our kids, allowing her to drop by our home whenever, if ever, she can. I still work primarily from home, so I'm always here and keeping her in the loop about their activities and such. It was nice to see that she was able to make it to our youngest's first Christmas school assembly, where our eldest had speaking parts in the play. Before work later that week, I brought our kids to bring her a plate of food on Christmas Day at the hospital because she had to work over the holidays. I'd be lying if I said that didn't hurt or that I didn't feel uncomfortable with the stares and whispers from her coworkers while I waited for the kids to excitedly give her their presents and wish their mom a Merry Christmas. Even though she was trying to be welcoming, all I could do was say Merry Christmas and wave goodbye from a distance as we left. This past Christmas, despite the many blessings I have to be thankful for, it all felt so hollow at the same time. On New Year's Eve, I embraced my inner Pinterest dad, trying to make everything as festive and fun as possible. I copied ideas for doing a countdown at 9 p.m. for the kids with a balloon drop in our living room and pop some fireworks as soon as the sun set. On that note, I should mention that I rediscovered my love of cooking, something I did for years as a bachelor with my roommates, while managing the stress of a 4- and 6-year-old insisting that they're mini versions of Gordon Ramsay and can provide Michelin-level sous chef services. With the kids tucked away and asleep, I rang in the new year with my dog and a drink, scrolling on my phone with the sounds of fireworks popping in the distance. I saw that my ex was living her best life in her new life, snap after snap after snap. So I made a mental checklist for the end of 2024. Self-esteem almost gone, confidence hanging by a thread, ability to open up and trust anyone outside of my current inner circle, and dog non-existent, hatred toward my ex and her newfound life surprisingly gone. All I could do was laugh a little at the snap on my phone. She left me, she hurt me, but she did not destroy me. We're now two different people with two different lives, and I must move forward for the ones I owe it to. Other than the connection through our kids and some immediate family, we have no more ties, and I really have no interest in acting like I'm in my 20s and my 40s, spending half my paycheck on liquor just because it's Tuesday and New Year's Eve. Maybe I'm just boring, but I can and only want to focus on my kids and ensure that their lives and future are the best I can provide. I want to ensure the people and projects I oversee stay afloat and continue thriving in this economy. And last but not least, I want to make sure both my mother and mother-in-law are taken care of in the future. To the men out there, if you're in a similar situation, don't give up hope, but keep in mind actions, records, and overall proof speak louder than your words. It's an uphill battle, but no man has to fight it alone. Plan, prepare, seek reputable counsel and advice, and in the end, execute. As hard as it may be, stay focused and be as objective as possible in these times. Most importantly, follow through with what you say and promise to your kids. To the women, stay off social media and stop comparing your life to others. Just kidding, the first piece of advice applies to anyone regardless of how you identify. I don't think I'll be updating anymore, but I do plan to keep this all just for my Reddit pen pals. So please feel free to say hi. It's nice to have new friends.